Deep space was silent, filled only with the soft hum of drifting stars and the endless static of the void, when suddenly a single signal broke through, faint at first, almost broken, but unlike anything ever heard before, and across the galaxy. Alien listening posts picked it up. Technicians and commanders leaned closer, puzzled, unsure if it was random noise, a coded trick, or something stranger. And at first many dismissed it, laughing that some minor world was trying to play with the networks of the great empires. But those who listened carefully began to notice a pattern inside the distortion, a rhythm that almost sounded alive. And then at last, through the layers of static, a voice was heard, clear and heavy. A voice that spoke in a language many systems barely recognized, the ancient tongue of a small world called Earth. And the voice said only one thing, again and again. "Do not approach. This is Earth space." The words repeated like a heartbeat, steady, calm, but carrying a strange weight that made even hardened veterans uneasy, and yet most of the galaxy scoffed at it, because Earth was no empire, no great power, just a single world with scattered colonies, its history filled with wars against itself, but no victories among the stars. So what right did it have to send such a warning? What strength did it imagine it had? And in the great councils of power, leaders laughed, claiming the humans were arrogant, overstepping their place, a small people, pretending to be more than they were. But far away, on the edge of the void, some knew better, for they had seen strange things when skirting the borders of human space, unexplained vanishings of ships, signals that died suddenly, patrols that never came back, and every star map, no matter which empire printed it, showed the same strange fact, a vast blank region marked with silence, an area none dared cross, labeled only as restricted, with no clear reason given, and yet all respected it. Without question, even the boldest pirates avoided it, telling stories of shadows that swallowed ships whole, of weapons that broke through shields like paper, of whispers in the dark that drove crews mad. And though the galaxy pretended these were only myths, deep down many suspected the humans were hiding something, though no one dared to test it, at least until now, because the sudden signal had awakened an old curiosity. And curiosity in the galaxy was often stronger than caution. And so, word of the human warning spread quickly, from trade routes to war councils, from smugglers' dens to royal palaces, and everyone asked the same thing. Why send the warning now? Why repeat it again and again? Was Earth preparing for war, or was Earth afraid? And for every cautious voice that urged patience, a dozen more mocked the humans as cowards and fools. Yet still, there was an unease in the silence between the laughter. For the voice did not change, did not stop, and the more it played, the more it began to feel less like a message and more like a lock clicking into place, as though the words were not aimed at the galaxy at all, but at something hidden, waiting to be released. And across distant stations, strange things began to happen, small malfunctions in sensors, sudden distortions in navigation charts, quiet flickers in comm systems that all carried the faint echo of that same voice, repeating endlessly, "Do not approach, this is Earth space." And some listening officers swore they felt the words inside their minds, heavy and cold, as if not only heard but pressed directly into their thoughts, and they began to whisper among themselves that maybe the warning was not a warning at all. Maybe it was something worse. Maybe it was a signal meant to wake something sleeping, and in the darkness beyond the mapped stars, something stirred, invisible to the proud fleets of the great empires, unnoticed by the smugglers and raiders, but vast and patient, as though it had been waiting for this moment. And now the trigger had been pulled, and though no alien leader could explain why, many felt a sudden, sharp chill when the voice returned one more time, louder than before, carrying across every receiver, every channel, every mind, with the same calm words that now sounded less like a warning and more like a sentence. "Do not approach. This is Earth space." And then the signal pulsed, a vibration that shook even distant planets, and silence followed, a silence that was heavier than before, a silence that carried promise of something coming, something no one could stop. And as the galaxy argued and dismissed and mocked, in the shadow of Earth, unseen doors began to open, ancient engines lit, and deep within the void, humanity's true fleet awakened, not a scattered force of small ships as the galaxy imagined, but something greater, something built in secret for centuries, hidden away behind that blank space on every map, and those who would dare to test the warning had no idea what waited for them. For the single signal was never meant as a warning to aliens. It was a key, a call, a trigger, and the sound of it marked the beginning of a storm that the galaxy was not ready to face. The signal spread faster than fire in dry grass, carried from listening posts to smugglers, from smugglers to merchants, from merchants to soldiers, until every major empire in the galaxy had heard the human voice repeating again and again, "Do not approach, this is Earth space." And while the common people whispered in fear, telling old stories of the blank void around Earth where no ship returned, the rulers of the galaxy gathered in the Grand Council to discuss what to do, and the chamber was filled with thousands of voices, proud empires, cunning trade guilds, mercenary leaders, and ancient races that had ruled the stars for millennia, and most of them laughed, their jeweled faces and armored forms shaking with mockery, saying humans were nothing, a backwater species, a young race that barely understood hyperspace, yet here they were sending warnings as if they were kings of the galaxy. But not everyone laughed, for in the corners of the chamber, older voices spoke softly, reminding the crowd that humans had always been different, too quick to fight, too fast to adapt, too willing to burn themselves if it meant victory. And though their fleets looked weak, no one could explain the silence around their borders, the blank stretch of map where no probe, no patrol, no pirate ever returned. And even now that silence seemed to throb with the weight of the message that would not stop repeating. But the louder voices drowned out the whispers, and one by one the empires stood to speak, declaring that Earth had insulted them, that no small planet had the right to warn the mighty, that no weak people should command the great navies of the stars. And so the council's debate grew heated, sparks flying, until finally the high speaker struck the staff against the ground, calling for silence, and the decision was made, reckless and proud, to send fleets into human space, not just one fleet, but a combined force of ships from many empires, a demonstration of power, to show the humans their place, to crush their arrogance before it spread. And the hall roared in agreement, banners raised, voices shouting, while in the shadows the cautious ones lowered their heads, feeling a strange unease curl inside their stomachs, as though the council had just stepped into a trap it could not see. And far away, deep in the dark, as the signal continued its steady beat, human commanders sat in silence, watching, listening, their hands never trembling, for this was what they had waited for. This was why the signal had been sent, not as a warning, not as a plea, but as a test, a key to unlock the response they had prepared for generations. And while the galaxy cheered its decision, convinced that the humans would kneel, deep within the blank void of the map, unseen fleets shifted position, weapons older than the council itself turned to face the stars, and the first phase of humanity's plan began. The day the fleets crossed into human space began like any other for the galaxy, the stars shining in their endless silence. But for the admirals and soldiers aboard the mighty armadas it was a day of pride, banners of dozens of empires drifting side by side, thousands of ships gleaming in the void, engines burning bright as they moved past the border where the maps showed only blankness. And as they crossed the line many of the younger officers jeered, recording their entry, broadcasting messages back to their homeworlds to show that they were not afraid. But not all shared in the laughter, for as the fleets pushed deeper something strange began to happen. The stars seemed quieter here, the light dimmer, as if the universe itself held its breath, and no signals came to greet them, no beacons, no trading posts, not even the debris of old battles, only silence stretching farther than the eye could see. And while some scoffed saying humans had nothing, others felt a chill creep through their bones, for space itself seemed to be watching, as though unseen eyes followed every move they made. And then, when they reached a point marked by no coordinates, the signal returned, loud and clear inside every ship, not from their radios, not from any source they could locate, but echoing directly into their systems, the same voice as before repeating in perfect calm, "Do not approach, this is Earth space." And for the first time the laughter faded, because now the warning was not faint, not distant, but inside their hulls, inside their ears, almost inside their minds, and panic rippled quietly through the lower ranks, though the admirals barked orders to remain calm, to press forward, to prove their strength, and so the fleets obeyed, driving deeper into the void. But the deeper they went, the more their instruments began to fail, scanners flickering, radars showing false ghosts, engines surging and then steadying again, as if unseen hands played with their machines. And whispers grew among the crews, whispers of traps, whispers of something ancient buried in the dark, and still they marched on, until one ship, a cruiser from the Coral Dominion, fired a pulse into the black to prove there was nothing. But the moment the blast vanished into the void, the stars around them shifted, like curtains pulled aside, and every ship saw what had been hidden. Thousands upon thousands of silent shapes rising from the darkness. No lights, no heat, only cold steel and shadow. But the scale was unmistakable, fleets vast enough to dwarf their own, their outlines sharp, their weapons humming faintly as if waiting for the smallest excuse. And in that instant the combined fleet understood they were not the hunters, they were the prey, for the humans had been waiting, cloaked not by technology alone but by some deeper trick that made them invisible until the right moment. And now they hung in the black like a wall of teeth, unmoving, watching, while the signal repeated once more, slower this time, almost colder. Do not approach, this is Earth space. And fear rippled through the commanders, some shouting for retreat, others demanding an attack, but none could move, for their ships refused to respond, engines locked, controls frozen, as though the humans held their systems in invisible hands, and the realization struck like lightning that this had never been a warning, this had been a test, and they had walked straight into it, trapped in the hollow of a vast hidden net, and though no weapon had fired, though no battle had begun, the galaxy's strongest fleets trembled in silence, staring at the black wall of Earth's power waiting before them. The fleets hung frozen in the void, their mighty engines silent, their weapons useless, their crews whispering in terror as the dark wall of human ships surrounded them, every shadowed shape larger than their own cruisers, every silent weapon pointed directly at their hearts, and still not a single human voice spoke beyond the calm warning that echoed again. Do not approach. This is Earth space. And the admirals who once mocked humanity now found their throats dry, their words tangled, for they understood the truth that was dawning like cold fire across every mind. Humanity had never been weak. Humanity had never been absent. They had simply hidden, and in their hiding they had prepared. They had learned how to blind sensors, how to choke engines, how to trap fleets in silence without firing a single shot, and the alien captains sat in their command chairs staring at screens that showed nothing but stillness, waiting for the attack that never came. But it was worse than attack. It was judgment, because the humans did not need to strike, they only needed to wait, and the waiting was torture, minutes stretching into hours as crews broke under the pressure, some crying, some praying, some whispering that they should have listened to the warning when it first came, and when one impatient commander tried to fire his weapons he found his ship's guns were gone, not destroyed, not damaged, but simply off, as if someone had pressed a switch inside his mind and taken away control, and the realization spread like wildfire. Humanity could reach into their machines, shut them down, hold them still, and there was nothing they could do, nothing but stare into the silent black where thousands of human warships floated like a shadow army that had always been there, waiting, and still the humans did not move, their silence heavier than thunder, until slowly, very slowly, one ship among them came alive, a massive vessel unlike any seen before, its shape broad and sharp, like a blade, its hull covered in strange markings that glowed faintly with pale light, and when it spoke the galaxy shivered, for the voice did not come through speakers or channels, but directly into the minds of every living being aboard the trapped fleets, deep and steady like the voice of the void itself. You crossed the line, you ignored the warning, you entered the dark, and now you see the truth. And though the words were simple, their weight pressed on every soul, and no one dared reply, not even the proudest empires, for they knew their fleets were beaten without a fight. their pride stripped away, their lives hanging by a thread that humanity held in silence. And then the human voice continued, slower, colder. You will return to your worlds. You will tell them, Earth is not to be approached. Earth is not to be tested. Earth does not warn twice. And as the words faded, the alien fleets felt their engines spark again, their controls loosen, their scanners clear, and for a moment hope flared, but none dared to move, for the human ships remained, unmoving, watching, as if daring them to try, and the admirals knew in their hearts this was mercy, not victory, and mercy from such a force was more terrifying than war. And so, one by one, silently, without pride, the fleets turned, crawling back the way they had come, their flags lowered, their voices hushed, while behind them the human wall faded once more into the dark, as if it had never been there at all, leaving only silence and the echo of the message that would haunt the galaxy forever. Do not approach. This is Earth space. The galaxy trembled long after the fleets had returned, their banners torn not by fire but by silence, and across the stars whispers spread faster than light. In markets, in council halls, in pirate dens, and in royal courts, the same words repeated over and over. The humans are awake, and no one dared laugh, no one dared mock, for every returning ship carried the same story, their captains pale, their crews broken, their weapons useless, their pride gone, and though each empire tried to hide its shame, the truth leaked like water through stone. Humans had stopped whole armadas with a thought. They had trapped fleets in darkness and let them go untouched, and that mercy was more terrifying than death, because it meant humanity had chosen not to destroy, which meant they could, and in the great galactic council, where once laughter had filled the chamber whenever Earth was spoken of, there was now silence, broken only by angry voices arguing what to do. Some demanded war to prove the galaxy was not ruled by fear. Others demanded peace and strict borders to keep the humans content, but no one had an answer. For how do you fight shadows that shut off your weapons? How do you face ships that vanish when you chase them? How do you fight an enemy who does not even need to strike? And as the debates roared, spies whispered that human ships had been seen at the edge of other empires, watching but never attacking, as if testing, as if measuring who would listen and who would not. And in backrooms, alien leaders grew pale as they realized the worst truth. Humanity had not revealed its strength fully. They had only shown a fragment, a glimpse, and that glimpse had broken fleets. So what then was still hidden? What firepower? What machines? What minds waited behind that wall of silence? And the question tore through the galaxy like a storm, keeping rulers awake, making generals tremble. And while they argued in fear, the common people began to whisper something different, not of terror but of awe. Some said humanity was a shield that kept worse things from entering the galaxy. Some said Earth was the grave of something ancient and terrible that the humans alone had defeated. Others said the humans had turned their entire space into a weapon, and every ship that entered was already dead. They just did not know it. And as the stories grew, the blank space on the maps no longer looked like emptiness but like a wound, a scar that burned whenever eyes touched it. And even the bravest pirates who once mocked danger now swore they would never go near it, for the signal still played, faint but steady. Do not approach. This is Earth space. And to those who had seen the truth, the words were not a warning but a sentence, and deep inside every council chamber, every war room, every throne hall, the same thought echoed like thunder. If this was only the beginning, if one signal was enough to awaken such power, what would happen when humanity sent 2, or 3, or 10? And though no one spoke it aloud, the galaxy knew the answer. One day the humans would not wait for trespassers. One day the humans would send a signal outward, not as a warning but as a command, and when that day came, no empire would be able to stand against them. The galaxy waited, holding its breath, as if every star had frozen in the dark sky, waiting for humanity's next move, and in that silence the final truth began to spread, not through spies or councils, but through whispers carried by travelers who swore they had seen it. A council envoy claimed he had reached the very edge of human space, his ship locked in stasis as a single vessel appeared, black as night, and moving without flame. And from it came not weapons but a voice, calm and steady, speaking in every tongue at once. We do not seek conquest, we seek silence. We ask only that you do not cross, because what you fear is not us, but what lies beyond. And the envoy swore his heart nearly stopped when the human ship turned its hull transparent, revealing endless firepower beneath, rows of silent weapons glowing faintly, machines older than any empire, yet the voice never shouted. It only repeated, "Stay away." And then his ship was released, drifting back into safe space. And, though many accused him of lies, the terror in his eyes silenced every doubt, for who would invent such a story when the memory still shook his voice, and across the galaxy the whispers grew into belief. Some said the humans were guarding a gate, some said they were holding back something darker than any war, and some believed the humans themselves had become something beyond flesh, their fleet not made of metal but living thought. But no one dared test it again. No empire, no pirate, no rogue fleet, and even the bravest hunters erased the blank space from their maps, refusing to look at it, as if the very sight could curse them. And in time the story of the signal became a legend, a tale told in dark corners to remind fools of their limits. Do not approach, this is Earth space. And every child of every species grew up knowing those words. But behind the fear another feeling spread slowly, quietly, like a seed in the dark: respect. Because though humanity held the power to burn the stars, they had chosen not to. Though they could have ended every empire in a single strike, they did not, and that restraint was more terrifying than war, for it meant they acted with purpose, with patience, with control, and no one could predict when the patience would end. And in the deepest halls of the Galactic Council, where leaders trembled before shadows they could not fight, a single truth was written into law: never cross human space, never answer their signal, never wake what sleeps in the dark. And so the maps of the galaxy remained forever scarred, a vast empty space where no one dared fly, and the legend of humanity grew not by words but by silence. And every empire learned the same lesson, that the most dangerous weapon in the universe was not a fleet, not a cannon, not a blade, but a single human voice carried across the stars.